The letter was taped to my front door, bold red letters, stamped with HOA compliance notice. I thought it was a mistake, I'd only lived here a week. But then I saw the name signed at the bottom. Karen Whitmore, acting HOA president. She wrote, "You have 30 days to prove you belong in this community. I served this country for 22 years, fought for freedom halfway across the world. And now, in my own neighborhood, I was being tested for the right to live free." That was the day I decided her challenge had just become mine. The next morning, I found her standing on my lawn, clipboard in hand, sunglasses on, measuring tape hanging from her wrist like a weapon. She didn't even say hello. She just looked at my flagpole, the one I'd raised the day I moved in, and said, "Flag must be under 8 feet. You're at 9. Then she smiled. Day 1, violation. That's when I realized this wasn't about paint colors or lawn height, it was personal. Every morning after that, she found something new: mailbox shade, grass length, even the way my daughter parked her car. Each time, she'd log it in her 30-day challenge report, pretending it was some kind of community improvement program. Neighbors watched but said nothing. I could see them peeking through blinds, scared to cross her. She'd find half the street before, and people knew better than to fight back. But I couldn't just roll over. I had fought tougher battles. So, on day 5, I decided to play along, quietly. I fixed every so-called violation, kept every receipt, photographed every corner of my yard. Because deep down, I knew, the only way to beat someone like her, was to let her think she was winning. That night, I wrote one line in my journal: "She wants a challenge? She's about to get one." Before the army, I never had a real home. I grew up bouncing between foster houses, different roofs, same feeling of not belonging. When I came back from service, this house was supposed to be my peace, my one steady place in the world. Every nail I hammered, every inch of soil I turned in that front yard, it wasn't just a home. It was a promise I'd made to myself: "You've earned your place." My daughter, Emily, she was all I had left. Her mom passed while I was deployed overseas. This neighborhood, this quiet street, it was meant to be a new beginning for us. She finally smiled again the day we planted that flag together. I still remember her words, soft but proud. "Dad, it finally feels like we belong somewhere." But Karen saw that flag differently. To her, it wasn't pride, it was defiance. Every time she walked by, she glared at it like it was a challenge to her control. She started sending letters, first about aesthetic uniformity, then about community standards. All coded words for the same thing: she didn't want me here. One evening, Emily found me sitting on the porch, letter in hand. She asked, "Why does she hate us so much?" I didn't know what to say. How do you explain to your kid that some people just can't stand others being free? That night, as the streetlights flickered and the crickets sang, I made a decision. This wasn't just about grass or mailboxes anymore. This was about standing up, not as a soldier this time, but as a father. Because when someone threatens your peace, you don't move out. You stand your ground. By day 10, I'd had enough of her clipboard wars. So, I drove to the county records office to check the HOA paperwork myself, just to know who this woman really was. It took the clerk less than a minute to find it. "Sir," he said, squinting at the screen, "there's no Karen Whitmore listed as HOA president." I blinked. "What do you mean?" He turned the monitor toward me. The actual president's name was Mark Henderson, a man who'd moved out 6 months ago. That's when it hit me. She wasn't enforcing rules, she was pretending to be in charge. Every fine, every notice, every threat, all fake. She'd forged the letters, stamped her own name, and bullied the entire neighborhood into believing it. When I got home, I looked closer at her official paperwork. The HOA logo was slightly off, printed from a home computer. The signature? Copied and pasted. She wasn't a president, she was an imposter with a printer and a god complex. That night, I sat on my porch and watched her patrol the street, flashlight in hand, scribbling notes like a sheriff in her own little kingdom. I felt anger rise in my chest, but also something else, curiosity. Why would someone go that far? Why fake power just to torment people? So, on day 12, I left my porch light on and waited. At midnight, she stopped in front of my house, staring at the flag again. Her lips moved, whispering something I couldn't hear. Then she turned toward her phone and took a picture of me. I stepped out. "Karen," I said calmly, "you're not the HOA president." I checked. Her face froze. For a moment, I saw fear, real, raw fear. But then she smirked. "Oh, you shouldn't have done that." And that's when I realized she wasn't crazy. She was hiding something much bigger, something she couldn't afford for me to find out. After that night, she stopped hiding. Every morning, her camera flashed from across the street, recording everything I did. By day 15, she'd posted my violations on the community board, pictures of my house, my daughter, even my mail. She titled it Evidence for Board Review. But there was no board. That's when I started digging. I met an old neighbor, Mr. Reed, who'd lived here 20 years. He lowered his voice when I asked about Karen. "Son, she lost her seat last year. She was caught mishandling HOA funds, 10 grand missing. When they kicked her out, she swore she'd take the neighborhood back." So that was it. This whole 30-day challenge wasn't about rules, it was a cover-up. She was trying to clean her record before the new audit, framing me as the problem to distract everyone else. That night, I set my own trap. I installed a small camera under my porch light, pointing straight at the street. If she was breaking in, sneaking around, or planting false notices, I'd catch her. And I did. Day 18, 2:14 a.m. Motion alert. There she was, on my porch, wearing gloves, sliding another fake notice under my doormat. But this one was different. It wasn't just a violation, it was a threat. "Remove the flag, or the board will take further action." That was the last line she ever wrote to me as President Karen. Because the next morning, I printed the photos, the audit records, and her fake letters. And I sent them straight to the real HOA, the county office, and every neighbor's mailbox. When she stepped outside that day, every door around her opened. People stared, not in fear this time, but in silence. She looked around, trembling. Then she saw me standing by the flagpole. I nodded once. Her little empire of paper and lies had just burned to the ground. By day 25, the neighborhood had turned quiet, the kind of silence that comes before a storm. Karen stayed inside, curtains drawn, no more patrols, no more notes. But I knew she wasn't done. Bullies don't disappear, they wait until they think you've dropped your guard. So I planned one final move. I called for an emergency HOA meeting, forwarding every email and photo I'd collected. Dozens of neighbors showed up, some angry, some scared, all tired of living under her fake rulebook. When Karen arrived, she looked confident again, heels clicking, stack of forged papers in hand. She tried to speak first. "I'm here to discuss multiple violations." The county officer cut her off. "Ma'am, you have no legal standing with this HOA." He held up the printed proof I'd sent. "Forgery. False notices. Harassment." Her face drained of color. I watched her hand tremble as she dropped the papers. For the first time, she wasn't shouting, she was speechless. Then, one by one, the neighbors stood up. The woman she fined for her garden, the old man she threatened over fence color, even the kids who'd stopped playing outside. Each told their story. Each one pointed at her. It wasn't anger anymore, it was unity. And when it was my turn, I simply said, "You challenged me for 30 days. I accepted. But I played by the rules, you didn't." The room fell quiet. Karen turned to leave, eyes wet, face red. The officer followed her out as the neighbors clapped, slow, steady, final. Outside, the sun was setting, casting light over my flag. It swayed gently, the same one she'd tried to tear down. For the first time in a long while, it didn't feel like just fabric. It felt like victory. The next morning, the street looked different. No more warning signs on mailboxes, no more whispering neighbors. Just kids riding bikes again, flags waving in front yards, and people finally smiling at each other. Emily ran outside barefoot, laughing. She looked up at the flag and said, "Dad, it's still standing." I smiled. "Yeah, sweetheart. So are we." That night, as I sat on the porch with a cup of coffee, I thought about everything she'd taken: peace, trust, sleep, and how we took it all back without losing our decency. No shouting, no revenge, just truth. That's the part people forget. Sometimes the strongest fight isn't on a battlefield. It's in your own neighborhood, standing quietly for what's right. The stars came out, the flag rustled softly, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years: home. I whispered to myself. She tried to test who belonged here, but freedom doesn't need permission. You don't need power to win, just courage to stand. Every neighborhood has its secrets, and every Karen leaves her mark. If you love true HOA stories like this, make sure to watch more on our channel, and don't forget to subscribe for more real-life neighborhood drama. Thank you.